Hey everyone, it's Richard Metal Fan here, bringing you guys an old school album review. I should have done this back in last August or so for the 25th anniversary, but I decided to just cover this album because I'm actually probably going to see this album in its entirety tomorrow at Center Stage in Atlanta. And as Gazebo of the Tout today, we're going to be looking into Burn My Eyes by Machine Head, the band's debut album released in August of 1994 through Roadrunner Records. Now, a lot of people should probably are familiar with Machine Head. They're a metal band hailing all the way from Oakland, California. They formed in 1991. And Machine Head for me are like one of those early kind of like gateway bands for me like really getting into metal as a teenager and stuff and like I said, in 1994, like I feel like a lot of debut albums came out in '94, like this, and probably the first Korn album, or like the first albums that come to mind, especially around the same year I was born. So hard to believe this album is as old as me. Me now, 26, almost 26 years later. And a lot of people consider this to be the band's best, or I do, but I consider it one of the best, along with like their later work, 2007's The Blackening. But I feel like Machine Head were sort of like around that time in the 90s, or like sort of like the grunge and new metal stuff. But Machine Head still kind of like keeps true like the whole metal edge. They have like kind of like thrashy kind of stuff like Metallica and Slayer and stuff. But also have kind of like groove elements of like Pantera and stuff. One thing to note about the vocals, I mean, Rob Flynn on here just sounds like pissed off as ever. And lyrically, it kind of like talks about like the world and like social stuff and political stuff. Um, and guitar wise, Rob's guitar playing along with Logan Mader's playing is just great. Like the two complement each other good. And the bass playing is pretty audible. I mean, former bass player Adam Duce does a really great job on the bass. And drumming wise, the great Chris Contos. I mean, he does you could definitely tell some of the stuff that he does is just shines on this album. I mean, nothing against like later drummers like Dave McClain or even now Matt Olden from Devilment who's their current drummer now is just a great job. But yeah, without further ado, let's start this album off track by track. Now it opens up with the song Davidian, which is hands down one of the most quality tracks on this album and one of the best opening songs of all time. It starts off with a really sick drum intro from Chris and has a very good harrowing riff identified as Machine Head is like the moment it starts, and it carries into another powerful riff. And I just love the cry of the song, which people know is Let Freedom Ring with a shotgun blast, which also signals some more riffage and just meaty power chords. And then the song just goes on repeat before a mild guitar solo finishes, and then it just builds up, and then as you think the song is about to end, bang, it just ears abuse. And then it just sort of like just goes to some really good riffage, and then it just fades out into the next song, which is Old, which is a favorite to be played on tour. It starts up with some whispering before it just comes into like the first true riff. And the riff is just amazing, just very high energetic, combining aggression with technicalities. And the verse then almost intrudes because you're just so caught up in it, and then the verse ends quickly. And that would be my least liked factor of the song. And the chorus is just power chord filled. So it just sounds aggressive yet melodic, and it shows signs of what would later become for Machine Head. Yeah, but Machine Head just boom, just hits you in the head over and over. Anyway, next song is A Thousand Lies, which was one of my favorites from this album. It consists of quite few riffs and a pretty cruisy first riff, leading into more of a slightly frantic riff, which then carries out for good effect before power chords dominate the rest. Next song, or riff, I should say, can't even speak today. And the first riffs lead into this as well. The verse uses a good power chord, and a power chord for the second frantic is primarily used for the bridge before the clean version of the second riff is used again, and it just goes through this band, repeats a heavy power chord 3 times for maximum effect. And just how the end riffs just gets slower and slower each time, making it for just all around changes in pace and aggression. Anyway, next song is None But My Own, which has some pretty awesome lyrical matter. The intro, I keep stuttering, fuck. The intro is a nifty short riff repeated a few times before the loud, blazing, distorted guitar takes you on a journey. To listener's surprise, Machine Head sort of like slows the verse down, providing a unique mixture of the song types used in this album, and then builds back up in the chorus just as loud as distorted as before, and then it rips out with another riff after the chorus, much kind of like similar to the video, and this occurs without the first two verses and the chorus. But surprisingly, the second chorus kind of like differentiates. Then after the chorus riff comes in with the yell "burn" at this time. Anyway, and the next song, and in my opinion, probably the most controversial on the album, is the song The Rage to Overcome, which starts off with a short drum intro followed by an extremely distorted guitar, and this is built on quite a bit before the main riff comes in. It's either power chords or opens. Either way, it sounds pretty tough after the first riff, and the verse concedes of like a distorted riff in the background. And it is very annoying, and it kind of kills the song until the main riff comes back in. And I guess they kind of wanted this to be the build-up, and the distorted riff, the main riff, and it sort of works well with the sort of like the distorted and clean usually does. And after the second verse, it follows in with some really great riffage afterwards before a brief solo. And here it's pretty much devastatingly epic. Anyway, the next song is called Death Church, which is a good song, but it got quite a bit repetitive and predictable on the first listen. The intro consists of some distorted speaking before some bass and a nifty guitar riff before it's sort of like the main riff finally comes in. And this is like my main favorite from the whole album, and the verses pretty much unique as they are the first time on the whole album where Rob actually tries to sing, and he pulls it off well before an angry chorus is repeated within the first riff. And this repeats twice, and I find the chorus quite annoying. At the first riff is kind of like shrill, and then the solo in this song is again distorted and untimed, and the song just finishes with another verse and chorus. Anyway, moving on to A Nation on Fire, which was the best song on the album. It opens with a beautiful hand-picked riff, which is improved as it went along before Rob did the whole verse, which also brought along with the main riff, and then it travels into another riff, which is worth banging your head to. Anyway, next song is pretty much the shortest non-instrumental, which is Blood for Blood. It begins kind of like similar to The Rage of Overcome with a distorted riffage, kind of sounding almost funny enough, remind you a little bit of Slipknot, but then it builds up from the main riff, and again, I like a thrash riff. It's probably the best thrash riff on the entire album. And the verse of the song is quite short and hasty, and I feel like the choruses over here are poorly executed and also short, and after the first couple verses are done is feel like a few seconds, and it introduces a new riff in there, which is kind of sounds a little bit awkward, but I feel like the only upside to the song is pretty much like the solo and just like a sick main riff, which I feel like should have been played more on this song. Anyway, the next song, in my opinion, is probably the most interesting song on this album, which is I Am Your God Now, which consists of Rob pouring his heart out, kind of like about his drug problems at the time. And the intro is much of like that of kind of like A Nation on Fire. However, it does not develop so rapidly, and the verses is sung well, and the chorus is introduced after an angry power riff from Logan, and the chorus is sung with passion and just frustration, and it develops well. Oh, and anyway, moving on to the next song being Realize, Realize, Realize. It kind of like I'm saying the same word 3 times, but if you look right here, it's sort of spelled differently. And this is sort of like a semi-instrumental with sort of like various quotes referring to like racism and police in America. And this is sort of like more for sentimental reasons than the actual song-like reasons. And there's like little riff variation, and the main message is repeated at the end, like, which is America has got to go through a radical change. It's like a lead in the song. Anyway, the last song on the album is called Block, which is a placekeeper. And there is a bunch of various great riffs throughout the song, which is all energetic. And again, it kind of has like a little annoying chorus with sort of like Rob repeating like fuck it all a bunch of times, but the riffs make up for that as well. Now overall, Burn My Eyes by Machine Head is a solid, good album to start a career with. So if I have to get this album a score, I'm probably going to give this a solid, probably 9.5 out of 10. 10 or probably somewhere between 9 and 9.5 if it's a good album. And I'm actually, it'd be cool to see this album played live in its entirety tomorrow. Or also, if anybody that's going to the show tomorrow at Center Stage, I will be there. So yeah, that's my review of Burn My Eyes, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal.